Om Namo Bhagavate Narasimhaya. Namaste Tejase Aviravir Bhava Vajranaka Vajradamstra Karma Sayarantaya Tamo Grasa Grasa Om Swaha Abhaya Abhayatmani Burishta Om Shrom.
So let's continue with the sins. Now we are going to talk about, I will use the term that Jesus used, fornication, promiscuity, pornography, all and everything of this starts with the innocent flirt. And I will not go into subjects that are pertaining to this category, that are controversial these days, and religions have already clarified all those matters throughout the centuries or millennium, depending on the tradition, spiritual tradition. So, any doubts regarding controversial topics, go see the religions or meditate and ask God. So marriage before God has many reasons, and one of them is your own protection against demons, against promiscuity. Even within the marriage, when the couples explore fantasies, they are objectifying the other for their pleasure. It's not about making love to the other, it's about satisfying my desires, my fantasies. Where do those fantasies came from? They are objectifying the other for their pleasure. They are no longer relating to the other. It is not divine, not sacred communion. It is the exercise of that which is profane, exploring the low frequencies of sex that opens doors to many things and eventually leads to demons. So, and pornography is something that is a very big instrument in that and brings a lot of dependency and corruption even between couples and all those things, because it's normal, common, people watch it and then they want to reproduce it, and that's when all things go sideways. The couple's sexual relationship has cooled down, desires have cooled down, so they need to stimulate it a little bit. But understand that passion lasts. It's like a fire in gasoline. It lasts very little, then it goes down. So, for example, in spiritual societies of old days, when all was this done by the right reason, marriage was not the fruit of passion. It was selected. Usually there was the spiritual leader, the guru, that would see the horoscopes, match the horoscopes to see if there was compatibility, if there was if they had similarities that could complement each other's. So, and after this they would meet, they would talk, they would see, and then there was the marriage. They jumped the passion state. There was no passion. And from there, what supposedly could evolve was the love. And that's what happens when people are close together and have affinity. They grow in love. If they don't have affinity, and even the other way around, they dislike each other intensely. So this was so that there wouldn't be any passion involved. And if you go behind, because going into passion, this opens the path for dark beings. It doesn't respect God. And in the spiritual tradition, this is taken in consideration. Now, it's very difficult to find that holds these precepts to the core. Usually it's just the form that remains, but the rest is lost. So, but even when it starts with passion, when it cools the passion down, so this is when the problems begin. People start to see what's incompatible, because when there was passion, you don't see anything. Or if you see, you ignore, because passion comes first, the satisfaction of desire. And then it cools down because it has a time, and then it opens the opportunity for love, for solving those differences, working them with each other, and to grow in love. And this is where people just usually give up. They change partners, or, which is more common, they try to bring back the flame of passion. So they stimulate it with a lot of things, fantasies, objects, whatever. And this is where they start exploring the lower frequencies of sex. Passion is already low, but from there to the bottom, it's a long way down. Then they start exploring, coming down, and this will open doors for other things, going down, down, until they reach demons. So even a relationship which is brought before God, because it's not about that, it's about what you are doing with your free will. So even that opens doors for demons, depending on what you're doing. And the more you explore that to keep the relationship alive, the more you are condemning that relationship. And eventually will become hell, or a place of of loneliness. Either it goes towards evolution from passion to friendship, friendship to human love, divine communion, or it goes the opposite until it reaches the demons. So there are specific types of demons for sex. They attack and feed themselves, whether through sexual relationships, pornography, masturbation, self-abuse, and abuse of others, consensual objectification or not, it's still abuse, it's the same, which leads the person often, but not necessarily, on the path of sexual dependency. So, and most of these habits become addictions because of the demons involved. So you become a slave, addiction, slave, and you need to continue and continue and continue. Usually they are sucking your vitality out, training it out. And this is why you need even to go lower and lower, because you cannot experience the same pleasure nor having the same experience unless you go lower and lower. And then when you go to normal relationship, there's no taste in that. So most of the time people think that this is their will. They are more sexually needed than others, more fiery, and free to explore the world of sexuality, as they have no prejudices, and only realize that they are slaves when they try to stop these behaviors, or when they try to go into a serious relationship, for example, and understand that they are not able to maintain one, to sustain one, and they have to change again for many different reasons, either psychological or involvement of all these demons. Some people are under these demons, but their sexual behavior is not that intense, but it is used just in specific occasions while they move, for example, in spirituality. They move from one person to another, just spreading there. But not only in spirituality, this is common in everywhere. Random people, meeting random people, but one of them has demons, and demons pass on and continue because that's their agenda, and they work tirelessly. So sexual relationships with male or female prostitutes, or with promiscuous people, easy people, the chances of getting demons is high. So sometimes people find that they got an opportunity to have a sexual relationship with someone that in their eyes is above their standards, or it was a lucky. Maybe it wasn't that lucky. So people become sexual slaves, but not necessarily, because it depends on a lot of factors, morality being one of them, the sense of morality, what are the standards involved. But if they are there, they pass on to whoever. If they are not promiscuous, only with whom they are, with their partners, they are promiscuous, and then from their partners go to the children and goes on through all the soul connections. So people become sexual slaves sometimes and move only to have sex with other people and spread that demonic net. They are ordinary people, and no one would say it's all for pleasure, for the freedom to enjoy life. All these people were taken hostage very early on. Their life may have nothing to do with this. Like the person doesn't have any big plans in terms of personality, they just go around exploring, savoring life, but just a sexual slave. They don't have any long objectives of life. They just move around. They like to explore sensual pleasures, travel, this and that, but it's only about to serve these agendas. As we have seen, the body is the temple of God, and bonds of soul are formed from a sexual relationship. It is a deeply spiritual bond, a spiritual connection that will keep you together and gives a lot of work to cut. So it's like, for example, you don't expose yourself physically, your nudity, your private parts, you don't expose them to everyone. You do that only in specific occasions. But those specific occasions are as relevant in terms of responsibility and consequences, are as important as not going around naked in front of everybody. It's a matter of respect to yourself and towards others. So this intimacy, as it is creating a profound spiritual bond that only happens through parents and children, and through people you have sexual intimacy. This should not be something random. And that spiritual connection becomes an axis which things flow from one side to the other. So you're in the spiritual path and you're trying to meditate, purify your energy. Your energy is being drained by those connections. Many seem like Christmas trees with so much connections. And the dirt that are on the other sides, it is flowing to you. So it's a nice bargain. Sexual relations that are not protected by God, they are not based on love, but serve the purpose of physical pleasure, or guaranteeing access to some other thing like security, importance, status, vanity, that do not respect you or the other, open the doors for these demons. And they create ungodly bonds. Unprotected soul ties, and you never know what's come from them. And we will have to see in the spiritual rebirth how to cut all those soul ties, because to walk towards God, you need to be free from all these connections, all these interferences. Not only because of demons' sake, but if there are demons, it becomes even more urgent. Because without cutting the connection to the one who is giving who is the connection to the demons, you will not be free from it. Can be a grandparent, can be a parent. So sexual intercourse. No. Here. The body is the temple of the soul, and promiscuity is a direct disrespect for the sacredness of your body, of the body of the other, or others in this case. It is a disrespect for God. If the person you're having sex with has demons or is touched in direct access, now this soul connection will be giving them rights to come to you. Sexual intercourse must be seen as sacred. It is a deeply spiritual experience of divine communion between two beings who have a sacred loving bond and becomes an extension of their communion. So, and looking for others to have a divine experience or using others as an instrument stops being sacred and becomes the opposite. So those who make their part of their spiritual practice, this sexual intercourse with others to practice this divine community, majority is there just for the sex. Not saying that all, I will not talk much about that, just this part, which is the part which is important. Because all in life is about motivations. Not about what is done, but about motivations. And to have access to the motivations, it gives time, a lot of self-observance, a lot of reflection, a lot of questioning what you think you know, what the reasons why you think you're doing things. It's not like that, not just asking, answering, oh, it's this. That says nothing. The most sacred sexual relationship is the one that happens between you and God, in which your eyes no longer see the person, but only see God in the other. And I'm sure that many of you will now, after hear this, not many, but some will say, oh, so this is how it happens. So I will start looking at the others as God so that I can satisfy my impulse. This happens a lot. I've seen so many things, even someone that was filled with demons, but I couldn't say anything because of what I've explained. But I was explaining certain things connected to the spirituality, to the offenses and this kind of sexual behavior and all of this. And all the time the person was just worried, how was she going to do to have sex around? And this is because these kind of demons were there and they are driving, and the person has to fulfill this. So by making this available now, those who have it on their path, they can come across this. You can share this. I will make something for you to share if you want. And let it be like this. And let this reach whoever is reachable. But the main purpose of this series is spiritual rebirth. For those who are sorry for what they are done, who repent what they did and want to go to God without carrying that heavy load. So now we ended this part with all that you know about religions and all of that. I think it covers it. Then reflection, your own spiritual work will show you the rest. So another point which opens doors is abusing others. Strongly abusing others, verbally, emotionally, physically, and the kind of abuse that lasts through a certain length of time, in which both the abuser and the abused become preys to demons. So many people find pleasure in torturing others, for example, in positions of power, in companies and things like that. This is very common. There's always that person which is always make life of others miserable. That usually there's something else behind. And these people that make life of others miserable, they usually don't have problems because they are supported by these beings. So they tend to live longer even. So now we move for the sins in the spiritual path. So the sins in the spiritual journey are not just sins, they are aparada, which means offenses to God. They are much more serious, with much more serious consequences, and it's very difficult to come out from them. The severity of these sins, these aparada, is in accordance with your consciousness. The more you know, the more responsibility there is. So I will put some videos in the scheme that I'm putting for you. I will put some videos that speak about the aparada for you to have a clear vision. All the videos that I'm going to put into this for you to travel with during your spiritual rebirth, they are part of that which is helping for a new consciousness to take birth with a new alignment in life. Because or else just the removal of sins, if nothing else changes, you will be collecting sins again. And it doesn't take that long if you're not paying attention. So these days there's the vision that the world is becoming more spiritual because spirituality has become mainstream more and more. But Sri Narasimhadeva would disagree with that. What we see is spirituality getting more worldly. So the restrictions, the preconditions, the selection has disappeared. Now everybody can move around and be in touch with spiritual teachings and all of that. That is nice. But if you don't know about the seriousness, which is the spiritual path, this is disastrous, because you will have people going through these places in spirituality, knowing about God, knowing about self-realization, knowing about these things, and without reverence, without sacredness, disrespecting everything. And this is not sin, this is aparada, offense to God, which give direct access to demons immediately. So this is much more serious. So with the corruption of values of society, with all these openings in the spiritual world where everything is available everywhere, where there are no rules, is this coincidence? So spiritual teachings are being diluted. Everybody can join in, everybody can have access, and everything is allowed. But spirituality should be approached always with the same reverence, sacredness that is expected for someone who enters a temple of God. Either by watching a video about spiritual teachings, reading a book, going to a temple, your spiritual practice, which is where you have formal direct communion with God, and you work your attunement with God. All should be at least with that same respect, even if it's just formal respect, that you show when you enter a church, a temple, when there are other people gathering, you enter with respect. It should be always your attitude in your spiritual life. And if we look that everything is spiritual, then that gives another vision. But in this case, in the spirituality, this kind of behavior, it's much more worse. So all these doors that I mentioned previously, all the things that I spoken previously, if it happens in spirituality, then it's much worse. Or if you are a seeker of truth or devotee, then it's much worse. Not because for you, all your life, in your consciousness, in your idea, in your vision, everything is spiritual. So it will have bigger consequences. So the purpose of life is spiritual enlightenment, God realization, which is why the only game being played, the obstacles are within and without. Spiritual teachings are the paths to God, so they are sacred. They are not a path to be distorted, to indulge in sensual desires, maintain attachments, and maintain worldly goals. This is an offense to God, which is something more serious. So using your spiritual path, spiritual teachings to indulge in worldly affairs, this is offensive. Or even to keep them. Once you know about the spiritual path and God, your duty is to work your attachments, your desires, and move towards God. Because if you didn't know that existed, okay, you don't know the game. But there's only one game being played, and either you're moving towards God or towards demons. There are doors that take you faster to them. The true seeker of truth is a jewel in the world and a threat to demons, which is why demons need to stop seekers from reaching this level of sacredness. The true seeker of truth achieves enlightenment, and this is even worse for demons. The seeker of truth, the real one, is the real warrior. And he is the real warrior because he is not trying to fight anyone. He's just trying to improve himself and be free from his illusion. And as his vibration raises, this is offensive, this is aggression for demons because it reduces their power. So they need to stop this from happening at all costs. So, therefore, keeping seekers in the low vibration, stimulating their fears, attachments, even total corruption is the goal of the demons, using all possible tactics. This is the most important agenda of the demons, and it is in spirituality that the most intelligent demons and the most sophisticated tactics are found. This is the most important place for them. So this is where they are the heaviest, everywhere, as we will see. So the scriptures are full of these stories of good versus evil because that's what it is. And in these stories we can see the tactics is more or less the same, how they operate, only the different times bring different tools for them. Spirituality is not a playground. It is a very serious matter and needs responsibility. Beings of light are the manifestation of divine qualities, and so the demons are the manifestation of vices. They can be evil, cruel, contemptuous. They have no trace of empathy or compassion. Quite the opposite. If you expect compassion from them, forget it. You are food for them, and they feed on suffering, your suffering. So in the ashrams, in these stories found in the scriptures, we see that the demons didn't let the seekers, the sages, to perform their rituals, their austerities in the ashrams, because this would rob them their power. This would increase the power of the devas, the angels of God. And demons would become weaker. So they would stop by any means possible spiritual practices to happen. And if by any chance they reached power, because in certain ages, demons are not inside, they are not just subtle beings, they are physical beings in this physical world, and devas also. All these changes through the eras. So, okay. And if they reached power in some way, then they would use that power to stop all spiritual practices and direct them to themselves. So religion, spirituality, the occult, that which deals directly with entities in any way, or of what some call the beyond, the astral, everything counts. And there is that which is already dark, declared dark, that is about harming others, and that is what is supposedly spiritual, religious, that is twisted, infiltrated by demons. And it's important to make clear that it's not about philosophies, it's not about spiritual paths, not about spiritual disciplines, it's not about religions, one better than the other. It has nothing to do with that. It's about people. And people have the potential to be corrupted by their weaknesses. So this is what's about. So people fight amongst themselves what is the best religion and this and that, and this is demons and this is the one that has demons, but it doesn't work like that. It's about people. People are corruptible everywhere. Values are at their lowest. So spirituality is the most important battlefield for demons. This is where they can ensure that their kingdom prospers, and this is where their kingdom gets weakened. So this is the most important place for them. So whenever there's a chance of a person dedicating or come in contact with spirituality, they will do everything to divert it. Firstly. If they cannot, they try to twist and do other things that we'll comment next. And they are very much present everywhere, already inside, infiltrating or trying to infiltrate, either one or the other, through whatever breach they can find, sending people, trying to attack people directly, tempting people, whatever, and everything at the same time also sometimes. And they also, something which is very common, is for them to masquerade, to appear before seekers as beings of light, as ascended masters, as all of this. So sometimes the person just sees like all ascended masters just going around like it was nothing, her meditation or whatever. Sometimes it is genuine, yes, but many times, especially when there's rituals involved and things like that, and seeing divine projections, beautiful places, these are just scenarios being put together by these demons. It's war. It's a war, but most of you don't know it. Everything that is declared spiritual, religious, occult, with any spiritual connotation or contact with the astral is disputed in a battle between light and dark. And even other things which are worldly in nature, supposedly, but have a spiritual connotation, like a school, for example, that wants to have a more spiritual philosophy, it will become a target for demons. They will target it. and try to infiltrate and distort. So when you don't know this, it has no problem. But if you know this, you will have the possibility to position yourself very differently. So it's a disputed battle of light versus darkness, where these demons exploit your ignorance combined with your free will. That is an explosive mixture. And when you act with your free will, even if manipulated, nothing can be done or said. So this is not to make you afraid, but aware. Don't go into fear, but become aware so that you can position yourself better. And sometimes there's nothing else to do but to trust what our experiences are being. But it is complicated. And spirituality is not a place to mess around. It is a sacred environment, a sacred subject, and should be treated with the utmost reverence and respect and sacredness. Drugs that remove body consciousness have become famous in spiritual environments because they provide supposed strong spiritual experience of so-called freedom. Why did beings meditate for decades to achieve liberation when you could just pop something and voila? How many times have I heard? It helped me so much. It opened doors for me, so many doors, and I've seen what freedom is. And what is that? So this may be nice, may be a nice trip, but has nothing to do with freedoms. But as you are not conscious of your body, as your consciousness is not in the body, you're out of there, so to speak. You don't know what's happening to the body. And usually is being worked or attacked by demons or infiltrated depending on your level of sins. Because if it can enter already, they will. If not, they will work you into that direction. And as you're not there, you have removed your protection layer and they can infiltrate. But obviously that's not what you will see. As this is happening, as you're getting attacked or infiltrated, you will be seeing ascended masters, beings of light, angels, nice, beautiful scenarios, all of this. And you will come out of that, wow, so profound. But you think you are protected. By whom? What do you know about that person? So giving your instruments into your body, soul body, physical body, giving to someone that you don't know the habits, if it has a strong spiritual discipline or not. It's like giving your 2 months baby, the mother giving the 2 months baby to a stranger. Oh, can you hold him for me here? Not knowing him from anywhere. I just need to go there and take care of subject. I will come back in 1 hour, more or less. Who does that? And this is even much more intimate. But in reality, most of you also don't care about who the person is. You're just looking for an experience because it's all about fun and game and plays until things go sideways. And your spiritual work usually is not strong, or else you wouldn't be there. And even the work of these people that assist these works, nothing against it. This is not about criticizing, it's bringing awareness. But these days, there's something which is very important. People don't know what is intense, serious practice. Normally, they don't know. If they are aware of yogic philosophy and these kinds of disciplines, even these are being distorted. But if they have read this, they have read the stories. Some have read the stories of the scriptures, of the masters, and they have an idea, even if it is very far from their world. Usually it is, because it's seen nowadays whole days. In new generation, everybody now, or most of the people, are beyond meditation. They don't need it because that is duality, is feeding the sense of duality. Nice stories just to maintain worldly attachments and continue with the same things. But the majority doesn't know what is intense spiritual practices. So in the best, in the most, you will have people that do 1 hour, 2 hours a day meditation. And that is basic. It's not intense. It's just a beginning, a warm-up. Someone who is guiding others in these types of rituals that I will not go into, they should have a very intense spiritual practice. Yeah, but if they did, probably would wonder, why would I be doing this? But that's another subject. So at least this, but that's usually not the case. If you're a therapist, or if you're someone doing this, usually you tend to think that that is your personal work, spiritual work, and do nothing outside of that. Or if you do something which is rare, is very light. Of course, there's always exceptions, but they are even rarer than this. A yoga teacher or a hatha yoga instructor, which is what is called a yoga teacher today, but it isn't, it's just a hatha yoga instructor. Usually, very rarely has a practice of its own. Usually it's just the practices he gives to others. And this is common everywhere, across the board. But if you haven't reached the final destination, and if you're not doing your personal practice, what is happening? And how can a high vibration be maintained? How can protection be given? So this is not pointing fingers, because this is complicated. It's giving an opportunity for you to realign. And if you want to go through the spiritual rebirth and be born to God without your sins, that God removes your sins, all of them and their seeds, you need to understand what you have been doing and rectify it. To a point that there's no turning back to those things again. And then you go through these things, and then you call others so that they can take with the same, or you involve with them sexually, and you pass on, and the net of demons continues to increase. Sexual promiscuity is a powerful tool. Demons are like a disease that spreads quickly through sex. There is not much more need of a lot of corruption, because they have, through the soul connection, they will have a direct link and access. Well, if you have been with that person in those conditions, then it is a sin already, because it doesn't respect the sacredness of yourself, neither your spiritual life, neither God. So, but this is direct access. Sexual energy is a feast for demons, and the purer the better. So the younger the better. It's an easy way to spread their kingdom. There is a vast and huge colonies specializing in just this type of demons that make people sex slaves in some way. And people just share this with other people without knowing, thinking only that it is them that have a strong urge, and they don't have any problems with it. They don't have any prejudices against it. They weren't indoctrinated. And it's just, they want it, just normal. no problem, like eating a sandwich. And this is very common in spiritual circles, taking young people to retreats in nature, directly or indirectly encouraging them to mingle sexually. And the demons in the astral, they feast around all these interactions by young people with pure energy that don't know what they are doing. So everything that is in contact with any kind of spiritual activity, astral activity, darkness or light, is a spiritual war. It's a battlefield. And once again, I emphasize that the real spiritual seeker, devotee, is a menace to demons. Not because he is trying to fight demons. No, he's just moving towards God. Because if he is trying to fight demons, then it's not the same. So one more reason for implants, not only to initially force temptation, but as a weapon against these seekers, these serious seekers, to break them in some way so that they can access them, to make their vibration fall. And technology is immune to vibration. So if your vibration is high, they have difficulties in coming close. But if vibration is low, then it's easier. And of course, there are demons that can come close to high vibration because they are powerful. But it's just in specific cases, not for everyone. These demons are not interested in everyone, just specific cases. If they cannot stop you from moving towards spirituality, then they will try to corrupt you or distort your path using your fears, attachments, to lead you to sins and, if possible, to offenses. So this is their way of operating. And this is what comes next. Whatever serious spiritual work is being done by people, in institutions, or by themselves, collectively or individually, they will be attacked in one way or another. They will be attacked in one way or another. Where your weaknesses will be exploited, whether through manipulation, temptation, violence, or all together. First is always temptation. If they can do it with temptation, no problem. It's like in the world. If you look at the world is at war, but unseen. When it gets actual to physical confrontation, a lot of things that happened previously. Information war, financial war, climate war, a lot of things. So the first is always temptation, because that's the way they can come through without being seen, spotted. And they can keep temptation with other attacks or putting situations in your path that makes temptation even more tempting to give in, or because, it's just a momentary sacrifice because of this and that. That is where corruption starts. This also provides a golden opportunity for the true seeker of truth, the strong one, because these devices will use your weaknesses, even the small ones, and make it bigger, intense. So things that you would take longer to see are brought to you intensely, and that gives you an opportunity to work on them. But if you don't have strength, you will not be able to. The stronger the spiritual bombardment, the more intense. The stronger the spiritual work, the more intense the bombardment, the attacks, as the threat becomes greater to demons. So, and as they are attacking you, is still a good sign, because if you're not being attacked, you're playing their game, or you're doing nothing yet, and you're just a worldly person in a worldly life. No menace for them. There is a reason why certain religions are so strict and condemn other religions as the devil. It is because of this observed infiltration and seeing demons in all these spiritual paths. Some are professedly dark, others think they are light, they believe themselves to be, but it is very difficult to maintain purity. It takes a lot of spiritual work, discipline, austerities, meditation, strong devotion, purity, and awareness of the world you are in and the purpose of it, and what the rules are. And this is not very common to find all of these in one person. Because things happen over a long period of time and your weaknesses are explored. Low self-esteem, the need to be special, need for security, everything will be explored, whatever you have there. Your fears, your attachments, everything. And also those religions or spiritual places that adopt rigidity and condemn others, saying that everything else is the devil or demon. They are not immune to it also, because it's not about religions or philosophies, it's about people. It's about people. And even in those religions, they themselves find many people that are infiltrated by demons. This should bring some reflection and understanding. But instead of that, they keep the same narrative that it was because the person has mingled into those religions or things like that. But it's not really like that. But separation amongst religions, among spiritual people, it's all part of the demonic agenda. Because as people spend time fighting themselves, they don't see the real enemy that walks in the shadows and manipulates everything. And the other side of the coin of these strict religions is the new spiritual movements, where everything is allowed. Everything is love and light and sex and drugs, and there is nothing to be done. And we already are the masters, we already are enlightened beings. And this is fine. And especially no spiritual practices or just very light ones, not intense fire that comes from meditation. This is what demons don't like, for example. None of this. Not saying that all these things have demons. Well, they will be there trying to enter, attacking. But what I say is that all this makes their life much, much easier. And if they are not harming these people in these places, what they are doing, then it's because they are serving their agenda in some way, leading other people or mingling with others sexually, whatever it is, they are serving the agenda. So they will not have much problems. Only if they try to take their spiritual path seriously, intense meditation, letting go of all these worldly habits, then things will become hell for them. And I've seen this, for example, people that want to come for a retreat, 10 days, 10 hours meditation retreat, and they have been doing that path of, oh, everything is nice and shanti, and then they start to see the intensity of the spiritual practices, and those symptoms that I explained in the third video start coming up. They don't know what it is, but they understand that there's something very different. And usually it's because of this. But without those intense practices, nothing is seen, it's more or less normal. There are deteriorations happening, of course, but not many seen. So the more light potential a person has, the more valuable they become for demons, either to stop it or to take it to their own ranks. Now people see spirituality as a kind of liberation to indulge in all kinds of sensual desires or to sensualize, especially because things are being presented that way. Everything is relaxed, with the same worldly values, without respect, without sacredness, and knowing or not serving the demon's agenda. There is a story in the scriptures of India that speaks about a demon that stole the Vedas, the sacred scriptures, from the hands of Brahma because he was asleep, and he took them with their mouth. So wisdom in the mouth of a demon, that speaks a lot of things. People are tempted, compelled to commit sins, and eventually the price of sins are demons and the destruction of everything which is important to the soul. The best protection is purity of devotion, which is not a protection on itself, because the one who has pure devotion, his only interest is not to get away from demons, but to reach God and to love God exclusively. If you have behaved this way, dishonoring your spiritual calling, masquerading as a seeker of truth, but have used this time to indulge in all that which is contrary to God, to the traditions of the true seekers of truth, and also led others to the same path, understand that this is more serious than sin. This is offense to God. If you were graced by the presence of a real guru and returned to the same worldly desires, that is an offense to God. And even if the guru wasn't real, and you got disappointed, and you returned to your worldly life, this is offensive to God. If he was not a real guru, you should learn. How did you get there? What was the value that have taken you there? What was the strong spiritual practice that you were engaging in? Probably none. Because it was famous or whatever. So, doesn't matter. Learn with your mistakes, strengthen your spiritual work, ask God to lead you to your true guru. That's how it's done. Now, giving up and going back to worldly life, that is offensive. If you are being tormented, manipulated by demons, if they control you, if you have been in these places in the attitude described, giving yourself over to everything that was said above, there is a high possibility that those demons have come from that. You will have to stop and see your sinful and offensive behavior, truly repent and commit to God to honor your spiritual calling without going back again, without backing down. So, this is very important to cut the connection with demons, and also so that God forgives you of the sins and offenses, so that you can be reborn spiritually. If any of these sins are committed with a partner, there may be a soul tie that needs to be severed. A soul bond is not just formed through sex, but through strong connection with someone. So not only in the spiritual path, but all those sins that I talked about, if they were done with a partner, someone you have a strong connection, there probably is a soul tie that needs to be cut. A soul bond, a soul tie can be good or bad. A good soul bond is when you developed a good, godly and healthy spiritual bond with another person. A good soul ties should develop between parents and children, husbands and wives, between people who are good friends with each other. And the best soul tie is the one that always is pulling you towards your spiritual path, towards God. A bad soul tie is linked to the same type of abuse between people, parents, children, spouses, friends, that has been going on for some time. Any ungodly soul tie that exists need to be cut completely before God. And if you don't know where it is coming, God will reveal you if you're sincere and you're in intense spiritual practices. Because sometimes it's complicated. Because sometimes it is a grandparent or a parent, and you will have to cut that connection. So there will be resistances in to see this. But if you don't cut this connection, if you don't put it for God to cut, then it will not be cut, and no spiritual rebirth, or demons will still continue to have access to you. And remember, if you commit this sin again after the spiritual rebirth, after being liberated from demons and sins, demons can come back. And in some scriptures it says 7 times more. Okay.
Om Namo Bhagavate Narasimhaya. Namaste Tejase Aviravir Bhava Vajranaka Vajradamshtra Karma Sayarantaya Tamo Grasa Om Swaha Abhaya Atmani Burishta